Hello, Anarchy Land. How are you doing? How are you holding up? By the time you see this, it will be hopefully Tuesday. But with the luck I've had with YouTube uploading, this is no telling. From Wednesday on, after Antonia has her bottom wisdom teeth removed, I will be in full Mama Bear mode, which means she will be my only priority. Helping her through this recovery time will be my main priority. So, I will do like YouTube little shorts here and there, but otherwise, those of you who have kids, especially quick ones that are so close to being 18, you know what, you gotta baby them while they'll let you. This will probably be the last time she lets me really baby her. So, I recently came across a movie about Carrie Buck. Carrie Buck was from the hills of Virginia, which meant back in the 1920s, they weren't really, into this day, they're not really the most educated people, but they can plant a garden that'll feed them for winter. So I would say they're far smarter than most people I know in that alone. And they can hunt and fish and do all that stuff. But in 1924, Carrie Buck was raped at age 16. The rape resulted in a baby girl named Vivan, which she absolutely adored. She was a very loving mother, in spite of how that child came to be. Now, the person that brutally raped her was the nephew of Mrs. Dobbs. The Dobbs family were, I guess you could say, foster family for Carrie and her siblings when she was 4. I had to pause and sneeze, sorry. When Carrie was 4, her parents divorced. Like a lot of people, her dad had trouble keeping jobs because he wasn't the most educated fellow on earth. So at 4 years old, he left Carrie and her family when she was 4. Her and her siblings went into foster care because her mom couldn't care for them. But by the time she was 16, she'd gone through school, she'd been on the honor roll, she was smart. Even though she only went 6th grade. Mrs. Dobbs' nephew, who grew up around Carrie, she trusted him. And he raped her. Now, a lot of times, these young women who were not the smartest cats in the block would be taken advantage of. And then they'd end up pregnant. They'd have the baby because there was no abortion laws back then. And people like Harry Laughlin would come along with eugenics garbage. They're just the absolute worst parasites. Anyway, after it became clear that Carrie was pregnant and she's too traumatized to tell who did it to her, her Dobbs family claimed she was feeble-minded, and eventually they said she was peculiar even as a baby, which meant they didn't want to be bothered with her anymore. They didn't mind the baby, they just didn't want her anymore. I'm talking about this because it really highlights how the supposed two sides always work together when it comes on stuff like this. The things that they should be banging heads on and stopping, they don't. Not one Democrat or Republican said no, that this is wrong. On top of that, the doctor who wanted to get this going hired the lawyer for Carrie. Think about that for a minute. You have a facility. You have somebody like this, Harry Laughlin, who needs a test case to get a eugenics law in place, which will put his name in the books. And they hire a lawyer for her that's supposed to represent her. Except it doesn't. The movie showed in the hearing that he only asked 2 questions, and that was it. It was appealed as planned all the way up to the Supreme Court. Now, Carrie's sister Doris was also sterilized, except she didn't have the luck of being manipulated into thinking it was her choice, as Carrie did. No. Doris was told her appendix needed to come out, but instead, they took her fertility and never told her. Ever. Why should we care about this? It's very simple. When you get a government who can sterilize people that they deem unfit, you're asking for trouble. As time went on, years went by, blacks, Jews, alcoholics, drug addicts, and anyone else the government deemed as unfit to breed was sterilized. You see, up till 1924, the Dr. Purdy had always sterilized over 80 women in the Lynchburg colony for the feeble-minded. Also epileptic psychosociopaths, which I have no problem sterilizing the sociopaths or psychopaths. One of them knows better but can't stop themselves. The other just don't care. Anyway, Harry Laughlin later received an honorary degree from the University of Heidelberg, in which Hitler would go on to use that monster's work to justify his extermination of undesirable members of the Third Reich Society. Now, this is a problem. Why? Because that law is still on the books, is never been overturned. That means the government could, whenever it wants, start deeming certain people as undesirable and start sterilizing them at will. And of course, it'll be for their own good. Because, they do everything for our own good. Alright. I think we all know how well that worked out with Hitler. He used the eugenics program on blacks, Jews, gypsies, and people who were deaf, blind, or, had some psychological delay, or said no to reading. I will see you guys later.